Well, hello there, how is everyone? I hope you're all well, you amazing, beautiful, wonderful people. I just wanted to do a quick video, right, because we're obviously seeing a lot of stuff coming out on the Idaho 4 case, aren't we? And we're all kind of, what is going on? I'm also going to try and move this. What's going on with this camera? That's a bit better. So yeah, there's a lot coming out, isn't there, with respect to the Idaho 4 case, new stuff. We've just had some bombs dropped by Sahara. But there's a clear two camps, do you know what I mean? It's either Bryan Kohberger is innocent, Bryan Kohberger is guilty. But I wonder, and I'm wondering whether any of you guys wonder as well, whether this is kind of by design set up in a certain way that it ain't going to be about someone winning and someone losing. Ultimately, I think Bryan Kohberger will lose. But not in the way that you may think. Because what have we not considered here? I want to go through this comment with you, right, by my man, Road Trek Rich, because I think people need to just take stock and have a listen to this, right, so I'm going to read it to you. It says, "Hi Harsh, what is going on here? Simple, an argument. Prosecution is claiming BK is guilty, defence is claiming BK is innocent. There are different methods, structures and components to arguments. One such model for arguing is Duffman model, claim, evidence, warrant. A claim, BK is guilty, for example. Evidence supporting the claim. Warrant explains how the evidence supports that claim. Two kinds of warrants. Explicit warrants. These are stated clearly and directly, making the connection between evidence and claim obvious. Implicit warrants. These are implied or assumed, requiring the audience to draw the connection themselves, which I think is what we do a lot of. The Duffman model of argumentation, which is a framework for analysing and constructing arguments, includes the claim, evidence and warrant as key components. Strengthening arguments. By explicitly stating or making clear the warrant, you strengthen the argument by showing the audience how the evidence supports the claim, making the argument more persuasive and believable. By the prosecution's dump of data, not necessarily evidence, it has made it possible for the defence to construct a comprehensible response to the prosecution's claim. And the prosecution has shot itself in the foot by not providing explicit warrants, explanations of how the needle of evidence buried in the haystack of data it has dumped explains their claim. This is weak. Bill Thompson, you are weak. The audience is left out here bickering over trivial, petty trifles in confusion over a conclusion they are trying to arrive at. The question of guilt or innocence. Since nothing has changed from day one, the trial is at a place where the actual audience, the jury in this case, will potentially come to a decision. It must, by Idaho law, be a unanimous one. My prediction of an outcome? I don't anticipate a verdict. I anticipate a hung jury. The judge is required to declare a mistrial. The case is referred back to weak Bill Thompson to recharge the defendant and refile for a retrial. Weak Bill won't. He'll retire. The case will remain unsolved and at that point ice cold. This case is like a game of chess. There are not two but three possible outcomes. Black wins, white wins, the match ends in a draw or stalemate. And I think the more that goes on, the more it's likely that this could end in a hung jury. Remember, a unanimous decision means that every single person in that jury has to believe that Bryan Kohberger did this crime. And I think that whatever side of the fence you're on at the moment, there is reasonable doubt. There is reasonable doubt. The DNA alone that was left at the crime scene, that it would appear that MPD, I believe, they would have gone the whole 9 yards with that if it weren't for the FBI jumping in and saying, no, there's a name, Bryan Kohberger. And that isn't about them concluding through DNA work that they've figured out that this is Bryan Kohberger. Look at the verbiage yourself. I've shown it recently. I literally showed it, I think it was yesterday, that it is literally, this is a name. Now this could be a source of DNA relevant to this case. Not that they've done work, they've done their findings and they've come across Bryan Kohberger and they show all of that information. It just doesn't work that way. Othram didn't conclude. The law enforcement themselves didn't conclude. CODIS didn't conclude. Nobody was concluding that the DNA found on the knife sheath was in fact Bryan Kohberger's. Just a load of people that later on down the track, they all tried to distance themselves from that result. Why? The car movements. There's some really odd situations with the car movements where they're showing you headlights as if a headlight is a car, and they're explaining the numerous movements of these headlights, saying that this is U-turns, when in fact it's quite plausible that this isn't U-turns you're witnessing, it is in fact multiple cars. We have times around the Linda Lane and 1122 King Road movement of vehicles that would suggest that it is incredibly highly likely that they are in fact using the DoorDash delivery and placing Bryan Kohberger's car there at the time that the DoorDash delivery car is at the property, not Bryan Kohberger's car or the car that they are claiming to be suspect vehicle 1. Look very closely at the times of movements when these cars are actually at the property and factor in that there is a DoorDash delivery apparently at 4 a.m. in the morning. So did Bryan Kohberger and this DoorDash delivery car literally tandem to this house? And if that's the case, then why are you not seeing that? Why is that not in the documentation? And why again are they referring to just headlights and this consistently driving round and around and around, up we go and down we go, and again, headlights, not cars. And the only real pictures that you have of a car are not 100% definitively Bryan Kohberger's car. Again, it's speculation. And don't get me started on this recent filing by Sahara with respect to the time advance reports and the fact that you have prosecution lying in court about their existence, when not only are they lying about the existence, but they themselves were involved in the acquisition of such data. So that again, why lie about it? Why lie? It's almost as if the FBI force them to look at someone who they perhaps may not have done. They'd have took the other DNA the whole 9 yards down the track, and perhaps that would have yielded a different result, but they got left with this name. And somewhere along the line it would appear that perhaps, and I am speculating here, but did FBI learn that some of the information placed Bryan Kohberger away from this property? They placed him away, but they had gone too far down the track. They had committed, they had jumped all in, and now they have to make it work. So they're trying to reverse engineer, and they're trying to be clever with their verbiage and what they're releasing. And you know, the PCA itself being stated as irrelevant. Well, why is it irrelevant? How is it? Why is the answer that in the comments down below? Why would the PCA be irrelevant now? But there's a lot happening around this. But just, it takes reasonable doubt. These jurors have to believe absolutely that Bryan Kohberger did this crime. And I ask you this: if you know that there was DNA not only at the crime scene itself that wasn't taken all the way down the track, but there was even DNA found on one of the victims, under the fingernails of one of the victims, again not taken all the way down the track, would you not in the back of your mind think, we're here to convict this guy of doing this crime? Not only have you got to place him there, you've got to place him inside this property doing this crime. Let me know down below where you are with it, and I'll catch you all in the next one.